What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my builds guide and banner review of the newer banner featuring Duo Seidr, newer Nerthuz, newer Kvasir, and also newer Male Kana. So let us begin with Duo Seidr, who's a blue mage flyer this time, and she has got Goddess Himari as her preferred weapon. This is going to be giving her -1 special cooldown, so stuff like Glimmer and Ruptured Sky become a 1 cooldown special, and at start of turn if her HP is at or above 25%, then she can give herself and the allies in 2 spaces +6 attack and resistance buff, and also the follow-up negation status, just like original Seidr. And then she can get in-combat effects depending on the number of turns that have passed. So at the very least, she's going to be getting +5 to all of these stats, and she's going to be getting even more stats depending on the turn count multiplied by 2. So she's going to be able to get 13 to all of her stats in the combat, and turn 2 onward, she's also going to be having Canto 1, which is much better than the Canto remaining movement of a Fortress skill, so at least she doesn't really have to run that. And turn 3 onwards, she can get true damage depending on the visible buffs present on herself and also the allies in 2 spaces. Treachery is usually nullified by lull and dull skills of the enemy, but even if they have that, she's still going to be counting the visible buffs of the allies in 2 spaces, and it is going to be resulting in true damage. And then turn 4 onwards, she can get the player phase brave effect if she has got more than foe's resistance +5. So it is going to be having a resistance check in the combat, and she's going to be having pretty high visible resistance as it is, and she's going to be stacking up even more resistance. So a lot of the time she's not going to be having much of a trouble triggering this player phase brave effect. And it's not even like you have to wait until turn 4, because if the time skate status is active on Seidr, or if the times grip status is active on target or foes in 2 spaces of the target, then it's just going to be counting the turns passed as 4, which is the maximum. So you're able to easily get the max effects out of this weapon by having the time skate effect on yourself, which you can get from her duo skill, or by having the time strip status on the enemy, which she can inflict with her Future Sighted. Speaking of Future Sighted, it is going to be essentially a better future focus because of its much better resistance check. It is going to be counting the visible resistance for the check, and you're going to be needing to stack up the visible resistance with still water and stuff like that. So after foes start of turn skills have triggered, it is going to be checking for the closest foes in the cardinal direction, and depending on the resistance check and if they have time strip status not active on them, it is going to be ending foe's action. And then she also inflicts the time strip status on the foe. So I'm pretty sure this is there to make sure that you're not able to permanently lock the opponent. If your opponent's team has like 6 Seidrs in something like Aether Raids defense, and then next turn she's not going to be able to end their actions. And this is also going to be active in the event turns, unlike future focused. So it does mean that you're able to use it a lot more consistently, and it is going to be meaning that you're going to be seeing her quite a lot in Aether Raids defense and also in Summoner Duels. The Slotsy skill also has some effects built in, so if she's within 3 spaces of an ally, she can get +4 to all of her stats, and also gets guaranteed follow-up attack and 30% damage reduction from foe's first attack. So this damage reduction is completely pierceable, but a lot of the time she's not going to be needing this, as she can often just kill the enemies with the player phase brave effect that she can get from her weapon. And time strip status is basically a type of reverse feud status, because it is going to be inflicting -4 to all of the stats of the opponent, and it neutralizes any of the unit skills during their allies' combat. So if you're going to be facing Duo Seidr with someone like Fallen Maria, and if you're inflicted with the time strip status, then Fallen Maria is not able to give the drive life unending to her allies. So that's why I say that it's kind of a reverse feud. This Slotsy skill is what makes Duo Seidr such a unique unit, because compared to regular Seidr, she can nuke a lot harder with her weapon now, and she also has the flyer mobility, which means that she could be run with Legend Hinoka teams and get the charge status and also the special charges status. She can also give herself and the allies in 4 spaces the time skate status and also the special charges status. And this time skate status is same as the one which Kvasir has got. So it allows the allies in 4 spaces of the unit to move to a space adjacent to that unit. So it is going to be enabling that kind of warping, and it is going to be increasing the mobility of your team. So giving out the special charges status is really helpful to all of your allies. And because she's a duo unit, she does have the dual score effect in the Colosseum game modes, and she's able to score as a 205 BST in those game modes. So overall, Duo Seidr is going to be a really strong flying nuke with the treachery effect from her weapon and also the player phase brave effect. She does lack the damage reduction piercing, but we do have Legend Camilla now, who can give the damage reduction piercing status to her allies. And on a lot of teams, you're going to be seeing Duo Seidr with Legend Camilla and Legend Hinoka, especially for something like Aether Raids defense or Summoner Duels. And Duo Seidr is able to also provide support by ending the action of the foes with her future sighted. And the fact that it's an improved version of the skill of Seidr, it just makes her a really solid utility unit, because ending the action of your enemies is really helpful in something like Summoner Duels, in Aether Raids offense, and even in Aether Raids defense, because once your action gets ended, you're only able to move if you're able to dance up that ally whose action got ended. So seeing her in Aether Raids defense is going to be a bit of an annoying thing, especially because of her power and the other flying nukes and the pre-combat damage that we have gotten nowadays. And even for Aether Raids offense usage, she's going to be really good because you can actually end the action of 3 enemies if they're all equidistant and if you have extra resistance compared to them. So if you've used the mythic version of Seidr a lot in the Astro season, now you're able to do that in the light season and also use her in your Aether Raids defense. So she can fit on the high threat range teams like Cav lines and Flyer lines. If you're going to be building her up on a budget, then she does come with Remote Mirror and also Sabotage Speed Resistance. So you can try and use something like Still Water, which can increase her visible resistance. And keep in mind that her visible resistance is really important so that she can end the action with Future Sighted. And then she also uses the in-combat resistance for the player phase brave effect for her weapon. So it does help with the nuking as well, and you can simply run the Sacred Seal. Phantom resistance is also an option, but it doesn't really give you any kind of attack. And if you're trying to optimize your Duo Seidr, then you can try and run Still Water in her slot A and just stack up the visible resistance as much as you can. And you can even run another special like Glimmer so that you can trigger it on your brave attacks, especially if you use her duo skill in something like Summoner Duels, then you're going to be able to easily trigger it even against the guard effect. You can also use Duo Seidr on your Gale Force teams in Aether Raids offense, especially in the light season where Mythic Gullwig is not going to be seen. So you can run her with Wings of Mercy and pretty much end the action of multiple foes at the same time so that you can get to the pots. And she can of course be run with a lot of pre-combat damage with Flared Mirror and also Occultist Strike. So this is going to be stacking up a lot of pre-combat damage. You're going to be trading some of the visible resistance, but it can still work out by running Still Water because Duo Seidr has just absurdly high resistance anyways. So it could be done in Aether Raids defense, because as of making this video, there is no answer to the pre-combat damage, and having the player phase brave effect on top of the pre-combat damage is going to be really strong, especially on the flyer lines. And you're also going to be able to end the action of the enemies, so that is going to be another variable which they have to keep in mind. And finally, if you're going to be using her at Plus and Merge in Arena, then she can score as if she's a 210 BST unit by running all of the 300 SP passives and also running Ruptured Sky. So it is not the highest score of a unit in Arena, but it is going to be in the second highest category. So she's going to be seen in Arena quite a lot, and you'll have to watch out for her on the horizontal and vertical maps, because losing your action in Arena can actually be a pretty big deal. So definitely watch out for her, because we're going to be seeing her quite a lot going forward. New Year Nerthuz is a colorless beast cavalier with Cute Paper Crane as a preferred weapon. This is going to be enabling the fixed Canto 2 on her, so it is going to be really helpful in something like Aether Raids offense. And she's also able to get -1 special cooldown, which is going to be making Aether, Miracle, and Gale Force as 4 cooldown specials. And if her HP is at or above 25%, then she's able to get +X to all of her stats. And this is going to be depending on the unit's maximum special cooldown count, multiplied by 2 and then added by 5. So she wants to run high cooldown specials like Aether, Miracle, and Gale Force so that she can get +13 to all of her stats in the combat. And she also has full null follow-up built in this weapon, and the best part about this weapon is definitely the 25% flat damage reduction based on her speed, which you can get against the first attacks of the opponents, including the brave hits. So flat damage reduction is completely unpierceable by stuff like Deadeye, Lethality, and all of those damage reduction piercing skills. So it is going to be a lot more dependable than the regular old damage reduction. And having this kind of flat damage reduction means that she's going to be getting at least like 15 to 20 flat damage reduction with her insane base 47 speed. And it also has a super boon, so she can get incredibly fast, and she also stacks up this flat damage reduction with the regular damage reduction of her Fruit of Life, and also Speed Smoke 4. So any kind of flat damage reduction is really good with the regular damage reduction because the regular damage reduction gets used up first, and then whatever damage is left, it is going to be getting the flat damage reduction applied to it. And the fact that she gets 25% of her speed is really good. So she's going to be functioning as a really good hit and run Gale Force Cavalier and also as an Omni tank because of having the damage reduction. And she's got the standard Beast Cavalry transformation bonus, which is going to be giving her the +2 attack, and she can also inflict the attack and defense debuff on the foe depending on the clash condition. Basically, the space is moved by whoever initiated, and if whoever initiated moved 2 or more spaces, then she's able to get 30% damage reduction on top of all of the damage reduction that she has got in her kit. So this weapon is really good because of her insane speed and the flat damage reduction, and she also has a new Beast exclusive slotty skill in Attack Speed Wild. So this is going to be branching off Attack Speed Solo, and any kind of Beast unit can run this skill regardless of their movement. So if the number of adjacent allies other than the Beast or Dragon allies is less than equal to 1, or if the unit is transformed, then they're able to get +7 to their attack and speed in the combat, and they're also able to get special charges on both their attacks and the enemy's attack, and after the combat they're able to heal up 7 HP. So the healing can be a bit annoying if you're trying to use a Cavalier as a Wings of Mercy beacon, but other than that, it is going to be helping you quite a lot. And if you run some other slot B skills like Counter Roar, then you can get even more post-combat healing, which is going to be working as a great self-sustain. And a lot of Beast Cavaliers and Flyers don't really have many options when it comes to charging up their special, so they had to resort to something like Heavy Blade, which is not the most reliable, so having this slotty skill can definitely make it a lot easier for them. And easily one of the best units to use this is going to be Mythic Freya because of the distant counter in her weapon, and you can also use her as a lot more reliable Gale Force hit and run unit in something like Aether Raids offense, and she can also clean up the opponents now after her remix and refine. And Embla is also able to Gale Force pretty easily in the player's hands and also in AI's hands in something like Aether Raids defense with the help of Beast Agility and the special charges that he can get. And on the infantry beast units, it is going to be a pretty nice skill to be paired up with the tempo effect that they can get upon their transformation. So you're able to retaliate back with specials like Moonbow and Glimmer without really using any kind of pledge slotsy skill. So you can run some other slotsy skills like Panic Smoke 4, which does work out with the debuffs that Fallen Muarim can inflict on the enemies. And you can also run this on someone like Nyla, who is going to be getting the -1 special cooldown from her weapon, and Time Pulse 4 could be used in the place of running a pledge skill so that he can use Attack Speed Wild and retaliate back with Dragon Fang with the use of the Null Guard of the tempo effect in her weapon. And any kind of Beast Cavalier can run this and pretty much function as a bootleg Aether with Arcane Nihility, and you're also able to get the Canto out of the Alarm skill. Fruit of Life is still going to be there on Year Nerthuz, and she's going to be able to inflict -5 speed and defense debuff on the foe in the combat, and she also gets 40% damage reduction and the damage reflection from foe's first attack. So keep in mind that this damage reduction is pierceable unlike her weapon, and if number of allies adjacent to her are 1 or less than 1, then she's able to get Null Guard in the combat, and after the combat she can inflict the gravity status on the target and foes in 1 spaces of the target. So this again helps you in the hit and run, especially if you run Gale Force as their special. But even without that, it is going to be functioning for the Omni tanking because you're able to stack up more damage reduction, and you're also able to get the Null Guard, which is going to be working really well with the special charges that you can get from Attack Speed Wild. So overall, Nerthuz is going to be functioning as a pretty nice hit and run unit and also as an Omni tank with all of the flat damage reduction and the regular damage reduction she can get out of her kit. If you're building up Nerthuz on a budget, then you can just give her reposition and run an attack and speed boosting Sacred Seal. And if you're trying to optimize her for something like Aether Raids offense, then you can run Gale Force and even run Defense Res Smoke 3 because it is going to be enabling her to set up the Pathfinder status for her allies to use after using the Canto 2 from her weapon. And the fixed Canto can be really good, and it is going to be better than the Canto 1 regular Nerthuz can get with the Alarm skill. And you can also run her with Miracle in something like Summoner Duels because their Gale Force is not really needed, so she can function as a pretty annoying unit with Miracle, and she's going to be able to easily charge up her special because of the special charges from her slotty skill, and the healing can help you with the miracle setup, and Pulse Smoke could be an option to be even more annoying in Summoner Duels. And finally, if you want to function as an Omni tank, then she could definitely be run with Prime 4 skill in something like Aether Raids offense. And if you run Plumeria and Aether, then you're going to be able to give all of these status effects to her to activate her Prime skill. And you can even run Inside Attack Speed to get another status effect and get the extra stats. So Nerthuz ends up becoming a very unique, dodge tank in a way, because no other unit in the game has got speed-based damage reduction, at least not as much as her. I mean, we do have Male Kana with his weapon, but still, with all of the things that Nerthuz has got going, she can function as a really strong Omni tank despite her cavalry movement. Year Kvasir is a green infantry mage with Faded Paper Fan as her preferred weapon. This is going to be giving her -1 special cooldown, making her preferred lightest time special into a 4 cooldown special. And if she initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, then she can get +5 to all of her stats, and is also able to reduce the opponent's speed and resistance by 20% of her visible speed. She also has 50% damage reduction on foe, which is pretty good for nuking, and just like the mythic version of Kvasir, she has got 70% damage reduction on foes' first attacks, including the brave hits on her first combat of the turn. So in her player phase, she's going to be really tanky, and it is going to be troublesome if the enemy has any kind of damage reduction piercing, because she's not really all that bulky when it comes to the raw bulk, but still having this kind of damage reduction is really good. And then finally, she also has Flash Smoke built in her weapon, so she's able to inflict the flash status on the target and the 2 spaces of the target after the combat. And this is going to be making her a pretty solid Aether Raids defense unit, and she could even be used in Summoner Duels because of the damage reduction piercing she's able to get. And she also has Flash Barrow as her slotty skill, which is going to be giving her the special charges and the extra offenses. And lightest time is what makes her unique, because just like mythic version of Kvasir, this is going to be here, and it gives her Null Guard effect, and it also does damage based on 60% of foe's attack. And if Kvasir initiated combat and the special was triggered and she survives, then it is going to be doing one of the 2 things. It is either going to be refreshing the action of an ally with the highest HP in 2 spaces, and it is going to be inflicting them with the gravity status if they are a ranged ally. If they are melee ally, then they're not going to be having any kind of penalty, and that is already much better than Requiem Dance of Brave Marianne. So she's able to refresh an ally with this, and if there's no ally in 2 spaces, then she's able to give herself the Timeskate status, which is going to be enabling the warping of the allies, and it does give her utility, especially when she's going to be used in the hands of the AI in Aether Raids defense. And when it's going to be used in the player's hands, you're going to be able to refresh an ally, which can be good for Aether Raids offense and also for Summoner Duels for the action economy. And then she's got Lull Speed Resistance 4, which is a really good skill to have on this kind of Aether Raids defense centric unit, because you're going to be able to ignore any kind of bonus doubler and visible buffs of the opponent's speed and resistance. And if they have any kind of visible status effects, then you're able to punish them. There are going to be better slot B skills that you can run, but still, this is a pretty good skill to have on a budget. And she does introduce the tier 4 version of Infantry Null Follow-Up, which is now going to be giving the unit themselves the Null Follow-Up status and the Order status. And you're still able to give out the Null Follow-Up status to the infantry allies in 2 spaces. So she's able to give herself the Null Follow-Up status, which is really good with her high base 47 speed, which has the super boon. And one of the things that Year Kvasir is able to do better than the mythic version of Kvasir is the fact that she can easily take advantage of Time Pulse 4, Infantry Pulse 4, and the infantry pulses that she can have on her allies, and basically pulse herself down, and she's going to be able to function really well in Aether Raids defense and also in Summoner Duels on Bridal Katria teams. So overall, she's basically going to be functioning as a modern Brave Marianne with this kind of weapon and special, which not only allows her to refresh the action of her allies, but also allows her to function as a really solid nuke with that damage reduction shredding. Her fodder is also pretty good because any kind of infantry dancer is going to be appreciating the tier 4 version of Infantry Null Follow-Up, because they're able to get the Order status and just teleport around, and they can also support their allies. It's also a really good skill to have on your arena core team because you're able to have 2 status effects. So if you're running something like a prime skill, then you're able to get 2 status effects at the same time from this skill and also support your allies at the same time. If you're going to be building up Year Kvasir on a budget, then you just need to give her reposition and stack up offenses with Blade Session. And if you're going to be using her optimally, then I think that Magical Null follow-up with Time Pulse 4 is an amazing combo on her. And again, as I explained before, she does have the advantage over Mythic Kvasir that she can take advantage of the pulses and all of these infantry skills. So she's able to pre-charge her special, and because she does have Null Guard from her special as well, she's able to easily trigger her lightest time special with the Flash Barrow special charges on her Brave Hit if you're going to be running her with any kind of Brattle Catria. And even if you don't, it is still good to have lower cooldown special for her so that she can easily trigger her special. And Magical Null follow-up along with her weapon is going to be giving you 75% damage reduction shredding on each hit. So it's really good for nuking, and that's why I said that she's kind of like Brave Marianne, because you would often see a similar build on her. And finally, if you want to use her in Aether Raids offense on a Wings of Mercy Gale Force team, then she could be used as a refresher, and she's able to take advantage of Infantry Pulse 4 and pulse down allies like Asker, who can also pulse her down and make sure that she's got a low cooldown special. Pre-charging her special is going to be ideal, but even 2 cooldown special is definitely not that bad to have on your Kvasir. You definitely have to watch out for far saviors like Winter Violet because they can pierce through the damage reduction. Year Male Kana is a red infantry dragon with Dragon Stone Plus as his inhittable breath. So this is going to be having an HP check, and he's able to get +4 to all of his stats and also get 20% flat damage reduction based on his speed on foes' first attacks, including the Brave Hits. So just like Female Kana, he does have that flat damage reduction, but the scaling is a bit better, and instead of having the guard effect, he has got the speed-based null follow-up, which is an amazing thing to have on a Dragon Breath. And this is going to be a really good weapon for many of the fast dragons until we get any kind of Arcane Breath in the future that is specialized for the fast dragons. Arcane Grima is good, but it doesn't really give you any kind of null follow-up effect, and certainly doesn't have this kind of flat damage reduction. And I did explain why flat damage reduction is really good in the section of Nerthuz. So same goes for Year Male Kana here. He's able to stack up a lot of speed with his base speed of 46 with a super boon and function as a bulky red dragon. He does have attack resistance Cal 3 at 4-star, which is going to be useful, I suppose, if you're trying to duplicate this skill with Rearm Grima, because Rhea only has this tier 4 skill as one of the main skills that he can inherit, and he also has Dragon Wall 3 at 5-star. So I hope that we can get the tier 4 version of Dragon Wall, because he's going to be having even more value as a fodder. And because he's a 4-star focus of this banner, he's going to be a very popular option if you want to plus and merge him. Stat-wise and build-wise, he's going to be pretty similar to Year Female Kana, but still he does come with a better weapon in my opinion. So you don't really need to change his weapon until we get an Arcane Breath. And if you're going to be running him on a budget, then you can simply speed refine his weapon and then run him with reposition and distant counter as the Sacred Seal, because he does have that resistance to function and retaliate back to mages. And if you're going to be investing even more into him, then Counter Roar 4 is going to be the best slot B skill that you can run on him, because having the regular damage reduction be comboed up with the flat damage reduction is amazing. And you can also run Pledge and Finish 4, which is going to be having good synergy because you're going to be able to retaliate back with Glimmers and heal up the HP and also get the true damage. And you're going to be able to get 2 forms of healing, the post-combat healing with Counter Roar and then in-combat healing with the Finish skill. It is a very expensive build, but certainly pretty good on him. And you can also use him with the tier 4 version of the Scout skill, which is going to be having much better resistance check than the version 3. So this way you're able to take care of the pre-charge specials and also the units that depend way too much on their specials and Special Spiral 4. And whenever we get Speed Resistance Exploit 3 in the future, that could also be a good skill that he can run in his slot C, because he's going to be stacking up resistance when he's going to be trying to run the Scout skill. You can also run him with Tempo 4 skill. He already gets null follow-up from his weapon, so being able to get Tempo 4 is going to be helpful, and you also can pierce to the damage reduction of the enemies, which is going to be helping you take down many of the nukes like Year Kvasir, for example, who have absurd amount of damage reduction. So it can be a good option whenever it releases in future. A lot of the best skills for these Kanas are not available as of this moment, but still, I want to future-proof my video. And then you can also run a max investment build with bonus doubler 4, because it is something you can do with the distant counter Sacred Seal And then finally, if you do want to use him in Arena, then he could be used with attack speed Unity and also attack speed Oath 4. So you're going to be having easy buffs and the mobility. And as it is, Counter War is going to be an amazing slot B skill that you can run on him. Unfortunately, you're not going to be having minus and special cooldown to retaliate back with blue flames, but still, it's a low cooldown special that is high scoring. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, then make sure to leave a like and a comment, helps you tremendously. And if you really enjoyed it, you could always support me directly by using super thanks down below or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more free videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as your unit's action against Seidr. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.